They always begin the same way. Soft voice, gentle eyes, a smile that feels warm enough to melt every wall you've built. You meet them and something inside you sighs because finally, here's someone who seems safe, someone who listens. Someone who doesn't rush, doesn't judge, doesn't push. Someone who feels good, almost too good. And that's the first sign, though you don't see it yet. Nobody comes into your life that softly unless they're either a miracle or a mystery. And most people don't meet miracles. They meet mysteries disguised as angels. You didn't know it then, of course. You only knew that they made you feel seen in a way nobody else had. They remembered tiny details about your life. They laughed at your smallest jokes. They complimented you at the exact moment you needed reassurance. Their presence felt like a warm blanket after years of cold nights. And you thought, finally, someone who gets me. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Some people don't get you because they care. They get you because they're studying you. The mask of sweetness is never random. It's crafted, cultivated, polished like a weapon that looks harmless until it isn't. They don't raise their voice because anger reveals intention. They don't argue because conflict exposes truth. They don't express discomfort because vulnerability is real and they're not trying to be real. They're trying to be believable. That's the trick. They create a version of themselves so gentle, so pure, so selfless that you stop questioning their motives. You stop questioning their timing. You stop questioning the little inconsistencies that flicker behind their smiles. You overlook the moments when something feels off, too rehearsed, too precise, too perfectly placed, because kindness is the easiest camouflage in the world. We trust softness more than honesty. And that's how the sweetest people can hide the darkest intentions. They don't win your trust through authenticity. They win it through emotional choreography. Every gesture has a purpose. Every compliment is a calculation. Every moment of sympathy is an investment, and you become the return. The danger isn't that they're kind. The danger is that their kindness is a strategy. You begin to notice it slowly. Their sweetness doesn't feel spontaneous. It feels intentional. They compliment you the most when they need something. They support you the loudest when they're about to ask for a favor. They show up suddenly when you're vulnerable, but disappear just as quickly when you're strong. Their gentleness isn't consistent. It's triggered. It's activated only when it benefits them. But by the time you notice, you're already entangled. Because the mask of sweetness doesn't just hide intentions, it reshapes your own defenses. You tell yourself, they're too nice to ever hurt me. You justify their behavior because you've never seen the darker side. You can't imagine anything sinister behind that soft voice and kind smile, and they count on that. They count on your empathy. They count on your desire to see the good in people. They count on your need to believe that some people still have pure hearts. They weaponize your hope. The mask of sweetness is most effective on people who crave warmth, people who've been hurt, people who long for gentleness so deeply that when someone finally gives it to them, they cling to it even if it burns them later. And the masked ones, they can sense those wounds, not because they care, but because weakness is useful. You notice that they never share much about themselves. Their stories are vague. Their past is blurry. Their vulnerabilities are rehearsed, like they've told them to others before. They appear open, but reveal nothing. They appear transparent, but hide everything. Their sweetness is a smokescreen, and behind it, a hunger for control, for validation, for power. For access to your emotions, your time, your loyalties. Not all darkness looks cruel. Some darkness looks kind. That's the version that gets closest to your heart. By the time their intentions slip through the cracks, it's subtle. A passive-aggressive comment wrapped in a joke. A guilt trip disguised as concern. A boundary crossing framed as love. You feel confused because their behavior doesn't match their words. Their tone is still gentle, but something underneath has shifted. Sweetness becomes pressure. Kindness becomes manipulation. Caring becomes control. But they still smile while doing it. And that makes you question yourself instead of them. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe they didn't mean it like that. Maybe I'm the one who's being sensitive. This self-doubt is the final step of their strategy. Because if they can make you question your instincts, they can make you trust theirs. You don't realize it, but their mask is slipping. Not because they lost control, but because they think they don't need to pretend anymore. Once they believe they have you, they start showing small fragments of who they really are. Little sparks of possessiveness, manipulation, jealousy, control, all slipped into sentences spoken softly and sweetly. It's terrifying because the danger isn't loud. It's quiet, it's polite, it's gentle. You start feeling drained instead of comforted, unsettled instead of understood, trapped instead of cared for. You feel obligated to please them because rejecting someone that nice feels cruel. You feel guilty for setting boundaries because they're so sweet. You feel afraid of hurting them even though they have no problem hurting you, just indirectly. That's the genius of the mask. When they finally show their true intentions, you're the one who looks like the bad guy for noticing. But here's the truth you eventually learn. Real kindness doesn't demand anything from you. Fake kindness expects everything. Real kindness is messy. It disagrees, it apologizes, it gets frustrated, it has boundaries. Fake kindness is perfect, too perfect, always agreeable, always humble, always controlled. Because it's not kindness, it's theater. And the moment you walk away from someone who hides darkness behind sweetness, you feel something you haven't felt in a long time. Peace, not relief. Peace. Because you finally understand that the gentlest people aren't always the safest, and the people who speak softly can still cut the deepest. The mask of sweetness is powerful, but it always cracks. And when it does, you realize that protecting your heart was never about avoiding cruelty. It was about recognizing camouflaged intentions. And the next time someone walks into your life with a sweetness that feels too polished, too immediate, too perfect, your instincts will whisper again. But this time, you'll listen.